A couple sits down on their sofa. Before they get comfortable, they reach for their phone, they open the camera, and they prop it against a cushion at just the right angle. And then they snuggle together for a warm, intimate, picture perfect moment. The problem is, what you just imagined is not a private moment. It's a cold and calculated production. And a century ago, there was a man who knew this would happen. Not this particular modern scene, but the logic underneath it. The logic where living is turned into performing. His name was D.H. Lawrence, and he called what we were losing blood consciousness. Now, Lawrence is unfortunately connected to scandals in the past. This guy wrote Lady Chatterley's Lover, which was considered an erotic novel. His books were banned because they were considered too obscene. But that reputation is completely wrong, because the thing is, Lawrence was not interested in sexually arousing his readers. He looked at industrial Britain, the coal towns, the factories, the relentless mechanical logic spreading across the landscape, and he felt that something had been amputated from the human being. He felt that we were losing blood consciousness. So what is blood consciousness? It is the intelligence of the body. It's instinctual and primal. The knowledge that your body has, but your mind does not. For example, let's say you're meeting a stranger and your mind says, oh, they seem nice and polite, but your body reacts differently. You might get this feeling in your gut that you want to walk away. Or another example, let's say you wake up at night and you know something is wrong because your body is shaking, but your mind, which is rational, dismisses it because there's no evidence that something is wrong. It's not intuition exactly, it's the language of the body before the mind begins to explain it. Now, for Lawrence, this was real. Everything else, reason, the logic of the mind, etc., was secondary. And according to him, industrialization made people live in their heads and lose connection to their bodies. Lawrence grew up in England in the late 1800s, and he watched mining companies take over towns. He saw the landscape change. He saw men climb out of the pit, dirty and exhausted and completely spent, and he noticed something. The energy that they gave the mine was not returned to them in a form that mattered. They were just paid money, that's all. In his novel The Rainbow, he creates a fictional town built entirely around a coal mining company. Lawrence describes it almost as a villain because the town exists to serve the mine. The mine does not serve the people. There's this great line from The Rainbow. The machine room was the temple on the hill. The coal miners were only pieces of the machine. The soul of the individual was nothing. The coal mine was everything. See, Lawrence is diagnosing here. He's not talking about poverty or injustice. He's talking about the slow replacement of a person's inner life with cold industrial capitalist logic. The men start to think like the machine. Relations between people in the town become transactional. The coal mining town does not just extract coal, it also extracts something from the people who live there. Lawrence calls this a spiritual sickness, and he spent his entire career trying to point to this. Now let's go to his famous novel, Lady Chatterley's Lover, the one that was labelled obscene. There is Sir Clifford Chatterley. He's wealthy, he's brilliant, and socially respected. He runs a successful business, but he's also paralyzed from the waist down from an injury that he sustained in World War I. Now that detail is not accidental. Lawrence is writing a symbol. Clifford is cut off from his own body. He's retreated entirely into power, into the management of his business. Basically, he's always in his mind, his head. His wife Connie describes being near him as a kind of suffocation. She's not saying that he's cruel. She's saying that there's no warmth coming from him because there's nothing left in him that connects to warmth. Then there's the anti-hero, Oliver Mellors, the gamekeeper of Clifford's estate. He's a man who wants nothing from the system. He doesn't care for respectability, wealth, and wants nothing to do with the numbing work of the working class. He lives at the edge of Sherwood Forest, in nature, in physical work, and in himself. And Connie falls in love with him. This is not a romance novel. It's a philosophical argument about why flesh and blood is important and not secondary. Lawrence is writing about the cost of a life lived away from nature. And he's doing it through Clifford. He explores the meaning of a human being's physical vitality through Oliver. But we in the 21st century have a much bigger problem. Capitalism back then extracted only human labor. You went to the mine, you gave your body for 8 hours, and then you came home. Whatever remained of the day was still yours. Things have gotten worse since then because the capitalism we live inside now extracts something more complete. It extracts performance. So think of the couple on the sofa again. They are not working in the traditional sense. They are living their life. And yet the logic of capitalism has crept even into that. The angle of the camera, the warmth of the lighting, the practiced ease of the intimacy. They're not performing for each other. They're performing for an audience they will never meet. Think about that. People sing, dance, speak, grieve, fall in love on camera, very calculated and optimized for our entertainment. And why? Because late stage capitalism has made constant performance a rewarding way of life. Now, the coal miner at least knew that he was working. He clocked out and he went back to his life. We have stopped tracking the end of the performance. Now, Lawrence was mocked in his lifetime for believing that the body knew something the mind did not, for insisting the warmth between two people in a room, I'm talking about real unrecorded warmth, was more real than anything that could be produced or optimized. He was never able to give a solution, but he was very clear about the problem. The question he's asking us a century later is not whether we have phones or coal mines. It's simpler and harder. How much of your life are you actually living, and how much of it are you performing?